hour.
As long as it's not like last time on her screen, just going back and forth.
Hello and welcome to the Engineering Science live stream. Thanks for everyone for joining us. If you want to ask questions, there should be a link in the description below where you're watching it, and that will take you to Slido, and you can just put them in the chat there, and then they'll be fed back to us. So first thing, I'm Felix. I'm a fourth year engineering student and I'm at Balliol College. I'm interested in biomedical engineering and I've specialised in sort of biomedical and electronic options this year.
I'm Solace. I'm going into my third year studying engineering at St. Peter's College. Like Felix, I've also chosen the biomedical and electrical options.
Hi, I'm Rosa. I'm going into my second year studying engineering at Wharton, and I'm not quite sure what I'll specialise in, but it's something related to the sustainable development sector.
Cool. Right, so the first question we'd be given is, what made you interested to study engineering? Well, I think for me, I was always kind of interested in like the maths and physics when I was doing A-level anyway. So it was kind of a natural extension to that. And there's obviously a few things you can do with like maths and physics A-level. But I particularly liked engineering because of its applications real world. So, you know, you've got the option of kind of using your maths and physics and creating a device and making something that will actually change people's lives. So that's why I wanted to study engineering. Anyone else?
Yeah, a similar thing of like wanting to use maths and physics to solve real world problems, and yeah, just being able to shape the world and make changes in the world through like my skills and the things I acquire. Yeah, I guess that's kind of why I want to do sustainable development as well. So like looking after the environment as well as like society, and yeah, just making an impact really.
Cool.
Yeah, I think pretty much exactly the same as you guys. I did DT A-level as well, so like as well as doing maths and physics, I wanted something like slightly more practical than like just physics or just maths, and so engineering sort of felt like the natural choice.
Yeah, sure, and you kind of get a chance to make something every now and then, do you?
Yeah.
It's cool. Right. How is a typical day studying engineering at Oxford? Does anyone want to start? Like Rosa, what was your like first year like? What was a typical first year day?
Yeah, quite varied. But generally we'd have like 2 hours of lectures, apart from on Wednesdays, and then we'd have labs one day a week. For like, so we'd have lectures say in the morning 9 till 11, and then the rest of the day would be labs 11 till 5. So yeah, that was the longer day, but all the other days it was generally lectures and then working on our problem sheets. And so those problem sheets were for our tutes. So we'd have 2 problem sheets for 2 tutes, and those 2 tutes would just be somewhere in that week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's almost identical first year and second year in sort of the format of how they work. I think I generally tended to work like leave lectures and work in the library just in college, and then maybe go out in the evening depending on the day, or go to the college bar, stuff like that. I think third and fourth year are kind of different. So Felix, did you want?
Yeah, so in third year, you kind of get more project work. So you might, in addition to like some lectures and some tutorial work, you're probably also going to have some project meetings, which is where you have a supervisor who's like an expert in your field of study, and then they will have some sort of project that they're giving you, and you'll be working in a group. So you'll have like meetings with your team to work out where you're going, and have some work where you're just researching things, doing like just like reading through the literature on the subject, and just trying to find out and like make something new in effect and design something new. It might also be worth saying that this was our experiences, and coronavirus is liable to change everything. Well, that was just our experiences so far. How hard is it to get into Oxford to study engineering? What kind of super-curriculars did you do? Anyone want to start on that?
Yeah, I think quite hard. I think just Oxford in general is just like hard to get into. Obviously you have to sit the PAT, which is different from every other uni where you just sort of submit your UCAS application. So that's another sort of entry barrier, as well as the interview. In terms of super curriculars, at school I did competitive robotics, which was really, really fun. And that was like basically, I guess, the main point of my personal statement. I didn't go, I think a lot of what other people do is like go to lectures, or like, I think I read a book, engineering related, and related that to things. I think just like try and like show links. I think if you don't have like, I didn't have any like internship experience or anything like that, so not necessary, but the whole process is quite hard, especially compared to other unis. So
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say
Oh, go on.
I'd say it's hard but not unachievable. Like, as long as you focus on each step and like you do your research about like what the PAT will involve, what is the specification for the PAT, things like that, and the same with the interview. So you have some preparation, you feel prepared, and yeah, I think you've got a good shot at it. In terms, sorry, what was the other? Oh, super-curriculars.
Yeah.
I'd say like, yeah, there's so much available. You can watch documentaries, read articles. I did like a STEM club at school for like the younger years to get them interested, because most of them didn't know. I went to a girls' school and most of them didn't know like much about engineering or STEM in general. So yeah, that you can make your own club, you can read stuff, but there's also more physical projects you can do online.
I think a good way of showing like extra interest is if you're doing some sort of extended project qualification, is doing something that like engineering related with that. So I think I did mine on like sort of materials, sort of 3D printing, sort of project like that. So that was a really good way of showing like I'm really interested in engineering, and that's what the tutors will be looking for. It's obviously hard, but yeah, don't let that put you off. There are a lot of people applying, but yeah, if you're good enough, you'll get in. So have a go.
Yeah, also a thing to add is like, I don't know anyone that applied thinking, oh, I'm going to get in. So
for sure, yeah.
Like, you may as well give it a shot.
Yeah, just give it a go, honestly.
Is there a certain specialization that is most commonly specializing into? What are you interested in? So I guess there's lots of different areas that the Oxford degree allows you to specialize into. So I was looking at biomedical things. There's lots of work going on in electronics. There's a lot of work going on in like fluid dynamics, computational fluid dynamics, machine learning. Like there's a huge range of like options that are on offer in your third and fourth year, and the academics will all be offering projects in a whole range of disciplines. So I wouldn't say it's like, oh, if you go to Oxford, you'll become a civil engineer. It's not like that at all. There's a whole range of things that you can specialize into. So anyone else want to say anything else for that?
I think most commonly people probably choose the more electrical side of things. Biomedical is also quite popular, but also it's just like whatever that people want to do, they can do. You can also like don't have a limit. Like if you wanted to just do like one civil module and then do the rest electrical, then you can do that.
Yeah, good point. If you had to break down Oxford education to 3 aspects, what would they be? I think one of the things that makes Oxford unique is the fact that there's like the tutorial system. So I'm not sure I'll be able to pick out 3 aspects, but certainly one of them would be the tutorial system, where you're getting like, you're in a small group. I was in groups of 3 with one academic in your first and second year, and they're going to really make sure that you understand your stuff, that you're able to put in the time, you're feeling all right with the course and things like that, and you'll have that sort of pastoral care. And then also making sure you've understood everything you've done in lectures. They don't just give you a lecture and then say, we'll see you at the exam on the other side. There's a lot of support along the way through the tutorial system. So I think that's one good aspect. Does anyone else have another aspect?
Independent work is quite a big part of it, quite different from school. And I think that's the same across most subjects, or if not all subjects at Oxford. You obviously have the lectures, and then we get set problem sheets for each sort of like lecture series you have, and then the following week you would have a tutorial going through it. But the problem sheet is quite difficult, and it is just a lot of like working with also like people in your college or other people doing your course across the university, but just a lot of independent work.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add, Rosa?
Yeah, just to build off what Solis said, in terms of like group learning as well. So the tutorials are also an opportunity to like use each other to like outside of like the tutorials, you can work on sheets together, but also inside it, you'll be learning off each other. So it's not just the tutor.
Yep. Right. What are your tutorials like? Do you have the same teacher the whole time? Does anyone want to start on this one?
Yeah, I can. At St. Peter's, we're partnered with Exeter College, so we have our tutorials with them, and I think it's different at every college, but essentially at the week before, our tutors send us 5 times, and then we just allocate ourselves into a time, and it depends which subject that we're doing. We have a different tutor for. This is just for first and second year, the format at St. Peter's, in my experience, and they can be quite intense. I feel like at the beginning especially, but also they are just an opportunity to ask questions. Like, I don't think I've ever gone to a tutorial with all of my work finished, because that's not the goal of it. The goal is of it to like do as much as you can and then learn the bits that you couldn't do.
Yeah, and I think especially when you get to like some of my third year tutorials, you end up, by third year, you get into quite specialist territory. And you end up there's a lot of tutors that give tutorials, so you end up, you know, if you're doing a thermodynamics module, you'll have a tutor that specializes in thermodynamics, obviously, so you end up, because you're specializing a lot more, you do have to have the more specialist tutors. And yeah, I'd say the same, like for what they're like can be a bit nervous at the beginning. It's like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, but quite quickly you get used to the fact of they're just there for you to iron out anything you don't understand. Did the fact that the course is 4 years put you off? I don't think so. I think the 4-year degree is, from what I understand, important for getting accreditation from engineering bodies. So I think, yeah, having a master's is good for that. I'm not sure if that's like 4 years as opposed to 3, or 4 years as opposed to 5, because I know some unis do have a year in industry. And then, yeah, the extra year would be you in an industrial placement, but there are opportunities over the summer to get industrial experience as well from that perspective. Anyone else have anything?
I think as well, because I think if you're thinking 4 versus 3, a good thing, at least right now, and if you're a UK student, you can get a student loan for the masters, which if you were to leave uni and do a master separately, I'm pretty sure a lot of them you have to pay for.
It's a lot harder to get funding. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so that I mean, I wanted to do a 4-year course because of that.
Mm-hmm. Anything else to say, Rosa, on 4-year degree? Or
I just applied for a 4-year because, like, I think to become like a chartered engineer, they kind of look for. So that's what you're talking about with being accredited as an engineer. Like a 4-year course is kind of the right step to go for, like, to have a master's. Yeah, I didn't think much thought went into it, to be honest.
I think commonly engineering degrees, most of the ones I was applying for anyway, are 4 years, so it's kind of in line with other universities in that respect.
Yeah.
Is the PAT the most important step in the undergraduate admissions process? Anyone want to start with that one?
I don't think so. I think they look at your application holistically, so everything plays a role. Your personal statement is important, as is your PAT, as is your interview, should you get invited to it. So yeah, there isn't one thing that is like focused on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, yeah, it's just, I think they describe it as just like one extra piece of information that they're going to use to assess your application. Like, sure, it'd be a good idea to like make sure you brush up on your material and everything like that, and make sure you're in the right frame of mind to sit it. But it's not the be all and end all if you come out of it thinking it's really hard, which you probably will do because the PAT is really hard.
Yeah, I came out of it thinking that I'd failed. It's like probably in any exam, that's like the worst exam that I've come out of feeling wise. I was like, oh, that was really bad. But I think the nature of the questions is quite different from A level, and that's why it's so different. It's like they're not expecting you to be able to answer all the questions. They want to see how you work, which is why like doing all your working on the page and giving everything in is really important for the PAT.
Yeah, for sure.
They're not just marking you on like getting the final answer, so definitely put your working down, do some practice ones, they're available online. Yeah, just be as prepared as you can, but it will be hard. People don't enjoy it.
But yeah, it's not the end of the world. Right, did you get an offer from the colleges you applied to? So I was lucky, I applied to Balliol and got an interview at Balliol, and then they gave me an offer too. There are various stages in the admissions process for like other college, for you to be like put to other colleges. Usually it's, if you're good enough to get in, you will get in to Oxford somewhere, but the college might not necessarily be the same. So if you apply to Balliol and Balliol have had like hundreds of people apply to them, they got far too many, they might give some of the ones to a different college, and which is more undersubscribed. So they do tend to even out a bit in that way. What about you guys? Do you get your first choice college?
I did, yeah. I applied for St. Peter's. I had my first interview at St. Peter's and my second one at Christchurch, I think. And then I got an offer from St. Peter's.
My story was different. I applied to Worcester. I had an interview at Worcester and Woodham, and then I got my place from Woodham. But yeah, you can have more than 2 interviews. That was just my experience.
So yeah, usually you do get interviews at one college and then another college as well, just as like a backup to see if just to like compare different tutors like views on you, so it's not just one college looking at you. Right, what was it? What is the best thing about studying engineering at Oxford University? Does anyone want to start this one? Trying to think.
I think for me, it's like actually getting to the tutorial aspect of it, I think is my favorite part. And just being able to like interact with people that are just like the leaders in their field on a weekly basis is just so amazing. And then the opportunities that arise from that, like I've had my tutors offer me internships that I would have like normally had to apply through like multiple rounds to try and get, but they've just sort of been like, oh, would you like to come do some research with me in my lab? And I'm like, yeah, that would be amazing. So yeah, that was the best bit for me. Yeah,
I think it's kind of like, from my perspective, so I'm going into 4th year, and in 4th year there's quite a big project, and I was looking through like all the projects that were on offer and thinking there's some like really cool stuff that you could be getting involved with at the moment. I think that's one of the best things, is like all the exciting things, especially in engineering, all the research that's going on at Oxford. So I think that's the kind of the best thing for me, is like kind of all the exciting and novel stuff that's going on. Anything else to say? Shall I move on? When did the idea to study in Oxford become a real plan for you? For example, I was pointed towards it a few months ago, but I heard from people they planned it way longer. So for me, it wasn't really part of a grand plan or anything like that. I just kind of applied and then thought, oh, that's nice, I've got an interview, and then kind of went to the interview, prepared for it, and then kind of the next thing happened and the next thing happened. I don't think you've got to like necessarily be aged 4 and thinking I'd really want to go to Oxford. I don't think it works quite like that.
No, in my experience, I only came, I think, in the September open day. So this open day 2 years ago. No, 3 years ago, whenever I was applying. Yeah. And I looked around and I was like, oh, this is really great. And I love the fact that the course was general. And that was the point where I decided. I hadn't decided like in advance at all.
Yeah, so I mean, I wasn't fixed on the idea. It was kind of like, okay, I'll give it a go. Like I've got 4 other options. So I think it was kind of before I went on Unique. So it's probably like around that time I was like, oh yeah, I'll put it as one of my options. But it wasn't like I had set it as like, okay, I'm going. So yeah.
And I think an interview and like in your application, your tutors aren't going to think like, I'm not sure that they'll be looking for like, oh, he's really dedicated, just go to Oxford specifically. They're more just looking at like, would you be able to handle material and the pace of learning and things like that. You don't have to kind of like go there. It's just,
yeah, they're really just trying to see whether you're the right fit for the university and for the subject.
Yeah. How many lectures do you have each week? So in 3rd year, it's much more variable. Like some weeks you might have like 10 or 12, other weeks you might have none at all. So it depends on the options. I think it averages out at around like 8 hours of lecture a week, I think, like average, but yeah, it is variable just depending on when the timetabling is.
In first and second year, I think it's about 8 hours a week normally, with a couple weeks being a bit more, but generally about 8.
Mm-hmm. How did you adjust from the change from A levels? Anyone want to start on that one?
I'd say it's a bit rough to start with. It's quite a big, like, obviously there was a jump in workload from like GCSEs to A levels, and there is a jump, not necessarily at all universities, but in Oxford going from A levels to like uni. And so I think, yeah, you get used to it after a certain point, just using the people around you, using your tutors and like other people like in your cohort, and yeah, just trying to stay engaged with it and keeping up with it is the main thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think similar to like how you would treat the it's like problem sheets aren't really, like, I guess they're sort of meant to be finished, but like in my experience they're really hard to finish, and adjusting once you like sort of get over the hurdle that like you can go and you don't need to know everything when you're going into tutorial, like that the point of a tutorial is to ask questions, then that sort of makes your life a bit easier. And also just like time management, like if you work during the day, like maybe 9 to 5 or something, then most of the time you'll be able to have the evenings off. It just depends like how you want to manage your time.
Yeah, so yeah, it's like they're not expecting you to have all the finished products like there and then, they're expecting you to learn throughout. And I think it might also be worth saying it like in the first term, particularly if you did like further maths A level, then there's like quite a bit of revision as like in the first few weeks. They're not going to like you're going to hit the ground running, but it's not going to be on completely new, really difficult things right away. There is a bit of revision to make sure everyone's at the same stage and everyone's starting from the same position, and you can use that time while the content is more like revision based from what you did from A levels. You can use that time to sort of adjust your working practices to work more independently and manage your time. Right, can you give examples of things that you learn about in your course, or is there a place where you can find all the course content? So we can give some examples of what we've done. So so last year, although it ended quite quickly, I did like a bunch of modules. So some of them was biomedical modules where you looked at like some wearable technology, you looked at how to interpret like the body's vital signals and things like that. There was some electronics where I learned about like transistors and how they work. Some like information theory where you like looking at how to process images and how to get signals. So yeah, I guess that's some of the stuff that I learned last year. Solis, do you want to say what you've been studying?
Yeah, so in second year we studied, so there are like 4 modules. One's maths, one's more electrical, one's more like civil stuff, and the 4th one is like, it's called energy, but there's some thermodynamics, fluid dynamics, some electromagnetism, control theory. In the more civil bits there's like materials and mechanics and dynamics of machines and things like that, and then the maths one is just like vector algebra, a bit of probability, linear algebra, stuff like that. Anything
else you want to add to that, Rosa?
Yeah, I'd say in first year it's just like building up for second year. So it's a lot of the similar concepts with like the maths, thermodynamics, fluid dynamics, things like that, and mechanics as well. So yeah, it's quite similar. You can find online like the course structure. So yeah, on the engineering website is a good place.
I can't remember exactly where, but I'm sure I did see a list before I came of like all the different subjects you'd be doing.
But also I think like I like when I was looking at the course content and it was like thermodynamics, I was like, I have no idea what that is, and that's fine.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't need to like understand what it is before. I think if you're trying to gauge whether you'll be interested in it, I think just more look at like what you're doing now at A levels and be like, maths, physics, like those are sort of things I'm interested in, like maybe the more practical aspects, have a look at that. But in terms of like trying to understand what thermodynamics is, don't worry about that.
For sure, and I'm taking modules like last year and this year that I didn't even know. Like if someone said to me control theory, I had no idea what that was, and it's kind of quite hard to explain. but yeah, that's one of the benefits, I guess, about doing a general engineering degree, is you get exposed to all these different types of engineering that you didn't even know existed. Are there any optional modules to study modern languages as part of the course? Pretty sure the answer is no, not as part of the course, but there is the language center.
Yeah, I think you might have to pay for that, but I think you can do like language courses during term time in addition to engineering work, but I don't think that's a very popular thing in engineering anyway.
You can do languages on the side. I think some colleges do help like subsidize that. But yeah, there are other opportunities to like learn languages through people that already speak languages in your college and things like that. So there's more casual things to pick up a language, but yeah, it is an option.
But it won't be part of the course. Can I choose to specialize in a specific engineering at a later date? Yeah, for sure. So you just enroll completely general engineering, no specialism at all, and then yeah, at the end of your second year, you start getting these options, and then you can pick your options from there for third year. And it might also be worth like noticing that when you get your options in third year, it's not just you'll become a civil engineer or you'll become an electrical engineer or something like that. There's a whole bunch of options which are available to you, and you can mix and match the ones you like, basically. Anyone else have anything to say, or shall I go to the next one? Do you have time to do sports and societies? Who wants to start for that one?
Yeah, definitely. I do. The sort of, I guess, main society that I'm involved in is Engineers Without Borders. Last year I was head of youth outreach, and this year I'm the secretary for it, and it's definitely manageable. There are loads of people that do like rowing, for example, like 5 times a week or something, and still manage to do all their work. I think it's just about having like your own sort of time in check and like organizing yourself, but you can do sports and societies and socialize and do work if you want to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think
I
was going to say, I think it's actually encouraged to make sure you're not just doing engineering. You want to make sure you're doing like all these other things as well, just to make sure you're having fun. It's quite a bit about engineering at Oxford, but you know, it's also important to make sure you're getting the most out of all the different part of Oxford life, like all the sports and societies.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's good to like just like have a break from all the work. So I do uni basketball and do a lot with African Caribbean Society. So yeah, there's plenty of societies available at Oxford, and it's good to have like an outlet or something to do socially.
Right, so I think we've reached our last question, as it's nearly past. So our last question is, what is your top interview preparation tip? So who wants to start for that one? Anyone think of it? I'm trying to think of like my top tip. I'm not really sure. Go
on. Maybe. Oh, sorry, Rosa, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, be confident in your abilities. Like, be confident with the content. Like, have that in your head, like going in, that you know, like the basics and know the A-level content, and then just be prepared to like use it in different contexts and apply it in different ways.
I think if you can try, it doesn't even need to be like a teacher or someone like that, like even a friend or a parent, if you can if you like have a question and then try and speak it to them, is quite a good way of preparing, because in an interview it's quite a weird format that you have to explain what you're doing while you're doing it, and trying to write things down on paper and think, and while you're actually speaking and trying to explain what you're doing, is just like not at all what I had ever experienced before. And I think it would have been good if I could have had some preparation. It doesn't even need to be someone who would know what you're talking about, but just even if you like talk to yourself while you're doing it, I think that could be quite useful.
Yeah, I'd say that, yeah, that'd probably be my top tip as well. Make sure that you can like speak your ideas aloud and like to someone else, preferably. And yeah, it's really important that they kind of know your thought processes in the interview. Right, so I think we just about reached the end. So this is the end of the live stream. The virtual open day is still going ahead. All the colleges, I think, are still open. General engineer, and then the general university is still open as well. We have a virtual open day website for engineering. So that is eng.ox.ac.uk/virtual-open-days-2020. So go there, and there's like virtual tours of the department, which you'd obviously normally get if you actually came to an open day. So there's all sorts of videos available of that too. So yeah, check out everything on that website. I think that's all from us. So yeah, goodbye. Hope to see you on Oxford.
Thank you.
Good luck with the application.
Yeah, good luck.